Hello, everyone, and welcome to 9-Inch Charge. Welcome to the Old World Show. Dan here, and as ever, Tom also here.
What up?
Now, what's strange about this episode is normally we're pretty good if there's rumours about and things. We do tend to get them onto the channel quite quickly as soon as we hear them. And the last rumour video we did was just before Warhammer Total War 3 dropped, which is nearly 2 months ago. And when it dropped, a community article came out, which we haven't spoken about, I think mostly because we were somewhat underwhelmed by it. But there was some news there when it came out. We're going to talk about it today, nearly 2 months on. So this isn't news. This is I was listening to the Ricky Gervais podcast, the really old one from ages ago, and Cole Pilkington was doing some monkey news from like the 17th century. And Ricky was just like, "It's not news though, is it? That's olds." So today we're going to bring you some olds, but some exciting olds and worth talking about, I think. So yeah, the article all the way back from February. Like I said, a bit underwhelming. You know, we were hoping that Total War 3 would drop, and then Games Workshop would go, and here's the tabletop game as well, and then it never really happened. But there is something interesting on here. So, Tom, I'm going to read you an excerpt from the very first part of the article, because it doesn't pull any punches. It comes straight out and says basically what we want to hear. So, it's taken more than 3 decades, but light has finally been shed on the mysterious eastern realm of Cathay. Though its nation's first full appearance in the world of Warhammer can be seen in the just-released Warhammer Total War 3, Cathay will also be coming to the tabletop in the upcoming Warhammer Total War. So we do so we do actually have although we've seen different provinces and different maps, we do actually have our first fully confirmed faction.
That's sick. I'm so excited that like the models I can imagine are going to be incredible. They've got so much scope there to play with.
And actually me and Jeremy kind of preempted this. So if you guys haven't seen it, go back and have a look at the Cathay Army reveal video that me and Jeremy did, because we went through all the units and talked about what would be core, what could be special, what could be rare. And we even went into the minutiae of what we think would be a dual kit and things like that. Because what's funny is if you look at the units that are in the game, and the cannon is a really good example, is that there's 2 variants of the cannon that they have. There's like a missile launcher, like a Hellblaster volley gun, and a more traditional cannon. But the frame of the cannon is identical, but then the barrel is different, how it shoots out. And when you look at stuff like that, when you look at it through the eyes of someone who's a tabletop gamer, you think, oh, that looks like a dual kit. So we did kind of think maybe.
Yeah.
But now I'm really excited, because actually what is really cool about how the army specifically works, one of the big things is it's all about teamwork and balance and yin and yang and all that kind of stuff. But it's all to do with discipline and rank and file. And they work really well as big units coming together and fighting side by side, which I think would be great to see on the tabletop. And it'd be nice to see if Games Workshop has still got it in them after Age of Sigmar and everything swirling around and being on round bases and having lots of space to make something that looks great in a uniform kind of battle line stance and still keep that kind of magical look.
I think this is one to do it with, isn't it? Because you can have a lot of Eastern inspired armor pieces and Eastern inspired weaponry, like nice curved like spears and your halberds and stuff like that, with interesting tassels and talismans coming off of everything. But just have it like look nice, rank and fire. Everything's nice and uniform. And as you say, in the old world, in Warhammer Total War 3, it's all about balance. I'd like to see that come into the list building of it. So you could have a list that's like out of balance. It may be like super powerful but a bit glass cannony, or a list that's in balance. And really dig into that little mechanic that they've got in the game. I think that would be brilliant.
From what I understand, the way it works in Total War is like, if you've got a yin unit, it works well. If you've got a yang unit nearby, it won't. Like a yang unit won't buff a yang unit; it will buff a yin unit.
No. No, if you end up with too many near each other, they end up out of balance, and you get massive debuffs. So, having a unit of spearmen and a unit of archers next to each other creates a good balance. So they end up buffing each other and working well as a team.
That's very cool. And also in the article, there was a map reveal, and the map is really, really cool, actually. When I first looked at it, I thought to myself, it's not very full. When you look at provinces like the Empire, for example, there's lots of little towns and different things, and it's not really, really full. But actually, the more you look at it, the more detail you find. So it's got the three main rulers, the three main dragons. So we've got Mao Ying and Zhao Ming, who are the two named characters and named dragons that came out in Warhammer Total War 3. And then it's got the province, the imperial provinces ruled by Zhen Yang, who's their dad, basically. And he is the imperial Storm Dragon, and he's the overall ruler. Doesn't look like we'll get a model for him, but I think we might get maybe a dual kit, or definitely get a dragon kit for the two named dragons, I'd have thought. And I think they'll do a big Marathi, little Marathi kind of thing, because they can be in human form and then turn into the dragons. So I think that could be cool to see.
Yeah.
And I was looking through the map, and I was thinking they've got a lot more control over their territory than a lot of the places in what we would consider to be the old world, like Britannia and Empire, because they're not overrun by goblins, they're not overrun by anything really. There's two beastmen icons in the imperial provinces living in the forests just down by the Jade River, but not a lot really. They seem to have very good overall control of where they are, and it does say in the article that the nation has stood, or the empire has stood for millennia, and especially where Zhen Yang is in the middle there, it's never ever fallen to anyone.
Yeah, I think it's quite like a militarized little population. I say little population, like they've got a massive bastion to defend, haven't they? So you don't end up defending a bastion that size without militarizing the whole population of your place. So
what's cool about it is that on top of those little symbols there, they've got the Great Wall to the north, and that just looks great for some siege warfare, because just above that in the eastern steeps, you can already see there's two realms there, and one of them is a fortress on the far right of the map, and that's owned by Chaos. So you've got Chaos coming down and them having to defend the wall, and Zhao Ming is up in the north. Mao Ying, is up in the northern provinces defending the wall, and you get to see a bit of that in the trailer for the computer game. And I think it'd be cool if there was just a little bit, just a scenario you could play. And they used to do this in the old army books. They'd give you like a one-off scenario, and it'd be nice to see something like that, defending one of the big, like defending the Dragon Gate or something like that against.
Yeah, that would be sick.
And
you could do a really interesting campaign, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, you really could.
You could do a whole series, like the Forge World red books or the black books. You could do the Great Bastion campaign, where one side takes Chaos and he's trying to push through the Bastion, break it down, and someone else playing Grand Cathay and trying to defend it.
The thing it does say in the article, it does talk about an adversary of theirs, and it's not the first time we've seen them on the map, but it's the first time they've been spoken about in the article. And if that's going to be a main adversary of theirs that's now been mentioned, it does make you think, will they also become a faction in the game? And that is the Hobgoblins, which are up to the north above the Stone Sky Mountains. And that there, after that brief intermission, takes us on to our second topic of this episode, and that is the Hobgoblins. So I've been doing a bit of reading. I've been having a look, scouring the different rule books, trying to find stuff about them. So I've been looking. There's a page, a slight reference in the 6th edition book. Not a lot, really. But there is quite a lot about them in the 3rd edition rule book. In the 3rd edition rule book, there was a bestiary, and in the bestiary they talked about all the different races in the Warhammer world, and there's all kinds of weird and wonderful things that we don't really see anymore. I got really excited, as I'm sure you remember, when I saw the gnomes. So who knows, maybe we'll do a gnomish episode.
Gnome hammer.
Yeah, gnome hammer. So yeah, we might do that in the future, but for now we're talking about the hobgoblins. So I'm gonna just have a look through the third edition book now and have a see what it says about them. So hobgoblins are rare and unwelcome visitors to the old world. They're really creatures of the open steep lands to the east coast of the to the east of the world's edge, mountains, and north of the dark lands in an area of scattered forest and endless flat grassland. Hobgoblins are a nomadic group of goblinoids, less heavily built than orcs, though almost as tall. The steppe is home to many of these wandering tribes, but all owe allegiance to the warmongering Hobgoblin Khan, the chief ruling over the tribe of Morngul. Hobgoblin armies are able to field diverse and a well-equipped force of mixed infantry and mounted troops, many of the latter riding the fearsome hobhound, a dark and chaotic mastiff-like creature native to the Mongol homeland. Hobhounds are ridden only by the tribe of the Khan and other steppe tribes riding giant wolves or serving as infantry. The Hobgoblin Khan controls the largest empire in the world, one which includes vassal tribes and allies. Although there are non-Mongol allies that are less reliable than their conquerors, they provide additional troops for the armies, including rocket troops from Cathay, wolf riders from the steppes, and sturdy infantry from the mountains. So all sorts in there, really. I can't believe that we've just done like the big reveal of Cathay, and we're like, look how much bigger it is than the Empire. And then you read that, and actually, the goblins or the hobgoblins have got the biggest empire in the world. How have they organised that?
I don't know. That's like the goblins. I bet that's crazy.
So what it is, it's what it sounds like it there is it's all different little tribes scattered around, but they all owe fealty to the Hobgoblin Khan.
Yeah.
And I was reading as well on the wiki about them, and there was something really, really funny about them. And we can talk about this in a bit of detail later on because there's a story that goes along with it. Hobgoblins are known for being the most traitorous creatures in the world. Backstabbing a friend is often referred to literally in Hobgoblin society, so much so that they've evolved a hard, flat bone backplate where a stab is most likely.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So to imagine one, yeah, it's a goblin that's nearly as tall as an orc with a big sort of bit of hard backplate on his back, probably hunched over a bit, so he can't get stabbed by his mate. And of all the Khans, there's only ever been one who's died a natural death. All of the rest have been scuppered and stabbed in the back by their comrades. Well, I guess maybe not stabbed in the back, maybe just stabbed in the front, or I don't know where they would stab them now. They've got this anti-stab proof armor.
Stab him in the face.
And looking through the rules of third edition, they don't have any additional armor save for having that big old bone on the back. And I think that if they are to come back as a race, because they've now been mentioned in this article, then they should they should have that
5 up armor save if you tacked in the rear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be cool. So yeah, it does mention the units, and I've sent through some pictures of the units. I'll have them come up, and they did have quite a range actually. It surprised me because I had never seen it really before, of bolt throwers and hand weapons and wolf riders. And the wolf riders, actually, they quite reminded me of the wolf riders that came out not too long ago for Warhammer Underworlds. They've got that kind of feel about them, I think, which might be an indication of what the army might look like if they're to bring it out. The hand weapon of choice looks to be an axe. Every single one of them has got an axe in their hands, like crazy axe wielding murderers. Yeah.
Even the archers have massive axes. I don't know what's going on.
Well, an archer still needs a hand weapon to fight in combat, don't they? So
they don't need a massive axe and a shield. Like a little stabby, like gladius, yeah, but not a massive axe.
Well, I don't know if that was maybe just because of ease of modelling, so you could actually make something that you could see, and that's why it had to be oversized, because they are quite old miniatures.
Yeah,
it might have been that, but there isn't too much more to say about them. Oh, I was going to tell that story about backstabbing. So there was a time when there was a massive invasion of the Chaos Dwarfs by Black Orcs and Savage Orcs, I think. And they went in and started attacking all the Chaos Dwarfs. But actually, the Chaos Dwarves and the Hobgoblins have got an alliance, and the Hobgoblins, much like the Crawl Boys do, they have lots of slaves and things, and they kidnap slaves. And I think that's probably how they ended up with Cathay troops in their army. They like to kidnap people and so that. And they provide slave labor for the Chaos Dwarves, and the Chaos Dwarves in return might give them all different weapons and things like that. They're probably making all the axes. But it's funny because they both think they get the best part of the deal, because I think it's just kind of fleshed out even more in Age of Sigmar between the Crawl Boys, who are kind of the updated Hobgoblins, and the mention of Chaos Dwarves is that they give them the rubbish slaves and they give them the rubbish axes, and they both think they've got a number on each other. But the orcs are about to slay the capital of the Chaos Dwarves and are about to just overrun them and take over everything. And then I think the Hobgoblins realize, oh, actually, we'll be worse off because of this. So then they turn, ever a backstabber, they turn on the orcs, and then victory is won for the Chaos Dwarves.
Greenskins turning on greenskins.
I know that someone must have rolled really badly for animosity in the middle of that battle.
Yeah.
I think that's cool, though. I quite like that idea, actually. If you're doing a campaign, maybe, or writing a campaign, and you'll just be like, we'll just let the dice decide and see if these orcs and goblins fight each other rather than actually do the battle. Because it's very likely to happen, and it's even more so likely to happen with the Hobgoblins. You should just never ever trust them. So let's see what it says about them. So alignment. Hobgoblins are evil creatures, and they delight in torture and needless slaughter and wanton cruelty. And their special rules are: Hobgoblin forces always carry their standards into battle. This takes the form of a staff pole bearing a trophy or sign, and this is carried in a small wagon drawn by a span of fierce hobhounds. So long as their standard remains intact, any Mongol units, which is probably the key word for the army there, are subject to frenzy. The army standard and its wagon must be included.
That's quite cool. I like your use of keywords.
Yeah, I think what's cool about that, it kind of reminds me a little bit like the Undead, where when you kill the Necromancer, the army begins to crumble, though not quite as severe as that. Like, you need to go after the standard, and then the army isn't as combat effective. So I can imagine there's lots of layers of bubble wrapping and things like that. I think it's funny, and you probably end up playing it completely the opposite as intended, because you go into battle waving this massive standard, and you'd be like, yeah, look at my banner. And then actually, when you're playing the game, you'd probably be like, right, where's the nearest hill that I can put this behind? And no one will ever see it. And you just be like, it is there really? And then they'll fight twice as hard. Yeah,
would that be something you had to model yourself, or did they release a model for it?
I can't find a model for it.
Yeah, have to model that.
Surely, if it must be included, there must be one. I'll keep digging and see if I can find one. The Hobgoblin standard is the symbol of the tribe's honor. Any enemy unit engaged in close combat against it is hated by all Mongol units on the table. So if you try and take it out, they realize that, and then they're like, right, we hate them. Let's fight harder against them, because they're trying to pull the banner down.
That's a cool rule.
Problem is, most people are just trying to cannon it off, I imagine, or something like that. That's what you go for, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what cannons were like in 3rd edition, so it may have been really difficult to have done. They weren't like laser pointers like they are in 8.
So there's more further rules about the standard here. The standard is a potent magical symbol to a Hobgoblin wizard. Totems always have the ability to act as a magical reservoir as described under magical standards. All Hobgoblin wizards must... Sorry, it goes on to the next page. Must surrender half of their magic points before the battle takes place and place them in the standard.
What the hell's a magic point? Is that when they have magic cards? Was this like the dawn of magic? The actual
We're getting a bit out of our depth, aren't we? Because I know we say, we've been in... Well, I know I've been in the hobby 22 years this year. It's easy because I started in 2000.
Yeah.
And this is a bit before my time. But it sounds like, you can draw magical power from the banner if you need to at later points in the game. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And a Hobgoblin wizard must substitute any spells for equivalent level elementalist, demonic, or necromantic spells. Hobgoblins do not use illusionist magic, so they must be common laws that they could use. And then it's got profiles here for them, and then it moves on to what humans are like in the realm. So that's pretty much all we've got about them. So it does seem to be they're scattered tribes. They are mostly hand, weapon, and shield, I guess, kind of units. They do have archers. There are tropes familiar to goblin players, except they have sort of slaves and mercenaries that they could tie into their army because their empire is so vast, including Cathay and troops. It doesn't sound from the article like that will be the case, because in the article it seems to suggest that Cathay are fighting a big war against the Hobgoblins. And what it says in the 6th edition rulebook, in the tiny bit of flavor text, is just that there's a big trading route from east to west, the Silk Road. No idea where they got the inspiration for that. And if anyone ever deviates off it or goes through Hobgoblin Khan territory, your survival rate is 10%. Only 10% of caravans actually make it all the way through to the other side, because they're just looted and raided and torn to bits. So it's a really, really dangerous place that you would never want to visit, basically.
No. Sounds like an interesting opportunity to model some interesting, like, Hobgoblin rocket troops.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
That.
Yeah, and they could do that so well now. And I think you can really see how they could animate them. They could also almost be like when fanatics are swinging around, you could have someone like caught on the end of a rocket or something, getting like flung around.
That'd be sick.
Or maybe you just have a variant of the Doom Diver where he's on top of a rocket or something.
That'd be good. Oh yeah, like he's flying a rocket through the air. Yeah, that's sick.
There's so much that you could do with this. There's so much potential. For me, it sounds a bit like they're a little bit less wacky than normal goblins, and a bit crueler, and a bit more calculated, and a bit more devious.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much wacky stuff we would see in a release, but as I said before, it just seems to be with this game, the way the reveals are going. It's like you've got the Empire and it's huge, and then you've got Cathay and it's massive, and now you've got the Hobgoblins and they're even bigger. And it's just like, where are they going to end up? It's like mental.
Yeah.
Maybe they're what was it? The Skaven tried to pull the moon into the planet to get to warp zone. Maybe it'll end up with a moon race of crazy monsters.
Yeah, and then at some point we've got to explore the big bads who kind of bring it all to an end, don't we? There's big chaos dudes who just come smashing through whatever they want.
Yeah, and I'd love to find out more. I don't know how much the Hobgoblins are referenced in the end times. From my recollection, they weren't really. There might be a sentence here or there, but I don't remember anything. And actually, in the wiki article, and normally they're really thorough, more than me just looking through the army books. There actually isn't anything for end times for the Hobgoblins. So they're just a pretty much the 3rd edition stuff that I read is the most that we've got. There's a couple of entries from them from a 1st edition book, which I don't have, and from the Chaos Dwarf book from 1994. And that's, as I said, because there was that alliance between the two of them. But yeah, they're pretty much a blank canvas, kind of like what Cathay were. So I'd be really interested to see, and I'm really hopeful now that we might actually see some, especially as the Crawl Boys have been so popular for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
I think that there's a real good chance. So that's all we know. It's a bit of a short one. Normally when we do an episode, we've done kind of 2 things. We've spoken about Cathay, we've spoken about Hobgoblins. Normally we have kind of 1 unit focus and we can go on and on and on and on. But Tom and I were talking earlier and we quite enjoyed this, so I think we're going to look at some different races that are extinct from the Warhammer world. So I'm Bagsy and Gnomes.
Okay, I'll have a look through, do some Forgotten Hammer.
I think you'd like the Norse dwarves, Tom.
Yeah, they sound quite cool.
They're very cool, and especially as you love dwarves. And the Norse dwarves actually are in the map, so they'd be cool to talk about. But
they are, yeah, that's true.
If you guys watching have any races, there's Wares and Norse and all sorts that you want to be talked about, and you want to hear a bit more about, let us know in the comments, and we'll be sure to include them in our next episode. It'll probably be the next episode or the one after, because we do want to do one about winter magic. We've been talking a lot about the winter magic lately. That cat's just knocked something over behind you, I think, Tom. Another feral beast from the untamed wilds of the fantasy lands in which we live. All right. Well, on that clattering bombshell, I think we shall we'll call it a day. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. See you later on.
See you later on, and then we've got to edit that in.